I still remember the way his hand gripped the handlebars like they might bite him. That morning, the air smelled like cut grass and sunscreen, and I didn't know yet that something between us was about to shift quietly, like the turning of a key in a lock you didn't realize was closed. His name was Ryan, my next-door neighbor for the past 5 years. He was 22, lean but strong, with warm hazel eyes, and that kind of boyish charm that made you forgive him for showing up late or forgetting things he promised. And me, I was the quiet one, always watching, always wondering if he noticed. The way I'd start talking too much when he looked at me for too long. He'd never owned a bike, which always surprised me. Growing up in the suburbs, bikes were freedom. For me, they were more than that. They were escape. I used to ride to nowhere just to think, and when Ryan knocked on my door that morning, helmet in hand and hair still damp from a rushed shower, saying, "I think I'm finally ready to learn," I didn't realize how close we'd be by sunset. "All right," I said, handing him the extra helmet. "Just don't blame me when your legs feel like jelly tomorrow." He grinned. "I already blame you for making me do this." We chose the forest trail just beyond the edge of town, a quiet dirt path barely used except by the occasional dog walker or jogger. It was shaded, private, and just wild enough to feel like another world, perfect for teaching someone to ride without the pressure of traffic or judgmental eyes. As we pushed the bike up the gravel incline, Ryan talked about random things, his part-time job, a girl at work who kept calling him sweetheart, and how he couldn't figure out if it was flirting or sarcasm. I laughed along, pretending not to care, but I did. I always did. I caught myself watching the way the sunlight hit his jaw when he tilted his head, or how his shirt clung just slightly too much to his back, where he'd started sweating from the heat. Little things, stupid things, but when you're hiding something in your chest, it turns even the smallest details into meaning. At one point, he turned back and asked, "You good?" I blinked. "Yeah, just thinking." "About what?" I shrugged, kicking a stone off the path. "Just, ... how weird it is seeing you on a bike." He laughed and nudged my shoulder with his. "Weird, in a bad way. No, kinda cute, actually." The words slipped out before I could catch them. His smile faltered not completely, just a flicker. "Yeah, well, I'm cute doing a lot of things." It was a joke, but something about the way he looked at me lingered. Not teasing, not mocking, just quiet, curious. We reached the clearing by the trees where the path flattened out. Ryan wiped his forehead with the back of his arm and took the bike from me. "So, ... show me how to not die, please." As I adjusted the seat and gave him quick tips, I kept stealing glances at him. I wondered dangerously what he'd do if I told him how many times I'd imagined moments like this. Not the bike part, but being alone with him, in the trees. No one watching, just us. "Ready?" I asked, terrified. He grinned. I put a hand on his back to steady him. Warm, solid. He looked over his shoulder at me, and for 1 second, it felt like maybe, just maybe, he was seeing me differently too. But the moment passed. He pedaled forward, wobbly and awkward, and I watched him disappear down the trail, with a laugh echoing behind him. I didn't know it then, but something was already changing between us, and I wasn't sure I'd be able to stop it. Ryan wasn't just my neighbor. He was the reason I started looking forward to mornings again. We met back when his family moved in next door summer, 3 years ago. He'd knocked on my door to ask if we had an extra phone charger. I handed him mine, thinking I'd never see it again. But the next day, he brought it back with a can of cold root beer and a crooked smile. "You look like a root beer kind of guy," he said. He was wrong. I hated root beer, but I drank it anyway. Since then, we'd been ... something. Not best friends exactly. Not strangers either. It started with helping each other move furniture, fixing each other's Wi-Fi, occasional late-night chats on the porch. Then it turned into more movie nights, midnight walks, playing stupid card games when the power went out. Our connection wasn't loud, but it was steady. Like a song playing in the background that you didn't realize meant something until the lyrics got stuck in your head. Ryan had a way of making everything feel light. He teased without malice, laughed easily, and somehow always knew when I needed company, even if I didn't ask. But there were moments, brief, disarming moments when he looked at me, and I felt stripped bare, like he saw through all the walls. I didn't even know I'd built Dot like now. He'd fallen twice on the bike already. Nothing serious, just scrapes and dirt on his knees, but it gave me a reason to get closer. I handed him a bottle of water, sitting down beside him on the fallen log we'd claimed as our rest spot. "You okay?" I asked. "I think my ego's more bruised than my knees." He grinned, examining a patch of dirt on his palm. Did I look cool falling, though? Like a baby deer on ice. He burst out laughing, the kind that made his eyes crinkle. "That bad, huh?" "Worse," I said, nudging his knee with mine. We sat in silence for a beat. The forest around us felt still, just birds, rustling leaves, and the smell of pine hanging in the warm air. Ryan leaned back on his elbows, letting out a soft sigh. "You ever think about getting out of here?" I glanced at him. "What, the woods?" "No," he chuckled. "I mean, this place, the town, the routines, everything." I hesitated. "Yeah, sometimes, but it's like I'm waiting for a reason." He nodded slowly. "Same." There was something in his voice that felt heavier than usual. A pause, a wait. I wanted to ask more, but I didn't. I just watched the way the sun filtered through the trees and caught in the edges of his hair, making it look almost gold. "You know," he said after a moment, "people always think I'm confident, like I've got everything figured out. Well, you do walk around like you own every room. That's because I'm faking it." I blinked. He never said stuff like that. He turned his head to look at me. "You, though, you're always so calm, like nothing rattles you." If only he knew. I smiled faintly. "That's because I keep everything inside. I can tell." We looked at each other, and this time the moment didn't pass so quickly. His gaze held mine, quiet and searching. I felt something tighten in my chest. I wanted to say something, anything, but I couldn't. He shifted his gaze first, looking down at his scraped palm. "I don't think I ever told you how much I like hanging out with you." I swallowed. "You don't have to." "I mean it," he said. "You're the only person I can actually breathe around." That made my heart stutter. I pretended to adjust the shoelace on my sneaker just to hide the way my hand trembled. "You ever think," he continued softly, "that maybe the people we need aren't the ones who make things exciting, but the ones who make things ... still." I didn't know what to say to that, so I didn't say anything. But my shoulder brushed his, and I didn't move away. Neither did he. It was easy with Ryan, always had been, but sometimes easy is the scariest thing of all, because it makes you believe you could have more, even when you're afraid to ask for it. We got back on the bike trail not long after. He insisted on trying again, and I jogged beside him like a nervous parent, ready to catch him if he fell. We laughed more that time, partly at how bad he was at steering, partly just because the tension between us had shifted, like something had opened, quietly, without either of us acknowledging it. Then it happened, as we rounded a bend near the edge of the trees. Ryan swerved too hard and ended up tumbling into me. I caught him by reflex, arms around his waist, both of us tumbling into the undergrowth in a pile of limbs and dirt and startled gasps. I ended up beneath him, his chest pressed to mine, our faces inches apart. We didn't move, didn't laugh, didn't say a word. His eyes locked onto mine wide, unsure, but not pulling away. I felt his breath on my cheek. I felt my own breath stop. Then he pushed up slowly, sitting back and brushing dirt from his shirt. "Sorry," he said. His voice Was too quiet. Didn't mean to crush you. You didn't. And that was all I could manage. He looked at me again, and for just a second, I thought he might say something. Something real. But then he stood up and offered me a hand. Come on, he said. Let's make sure I don't kill us both on the way back. His fingers lingered in mine just a second too long, and suddenly, I was terrified of what might happen if I ever let them go. We should have turned back. The sun had dipped lower than either of us realized. The trees stretched long shadows over the trail, and the forest, once warm and buzzing with life, now felt quiet, heavier. I glanced at my phone, no service. Of course I think we missed the split, Ryan muttered, spinning in a slow circle, eyes searching for something familiar. Yeah, I think we're off the main loop, I admitted. A little more anxious than I wanted to sound. Ryan frowned, brushing a branch away from his face. That's what I get for trusting my gut. My gut sucks. You're not wrong. He shot me a mock glare, but it softened into a smirk. You're supposed to be supportive in a survival situation. It's not survival until we're roasting squirrels over a fire. Ryan groaned and leaned the bike against a tree. Well, congratulations. We're officially lost in the woods. I tried to laugh, tried to keep it light, but inside, my heart was thudding a little faster, not from fear, but from the closeness. From the way we were now alone, fully alone, in a place where the world felt miles away. We'll be fine, I said. Worst case, we sleep here and I steal your hoodie. He unzipped it halfway, revealing the tank top beneath and the slope of his collarbone. Fine, but only if we share. The joke hung there playful, yes. But something in his tone made my chest tighten. I couldn't tell if he meant anything by it, or if I just wanted him to. We found a small clearing a few minutes later, soft ground, a fallen log, some moss-covered rocks. Ryan flopped down and stretched out arms behind his head. I sat a few feet away, trying to focus on finding the trail again on my phone, even though I knew it was pointless without signal. Dude, relax, Ryan said, squinting at me from the grass. We'll get back eventually. You don't have to act like we're doomed. I'm not acting like we're doomed, I said, a little too sharply. I just don't like the idea of being out here all night. He watched me for a second. Then he patted the grass beside him. Come here. You're making me anxious, just looking so anxious. I hesitated, then gave in. The grass was still warm from the sun. I laid beside him, not touching, but close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his arm. Above us, the sky had turned soft orange. The kind of sky you only get before a summer night lays, golden, slow. Remember that trip we took last fall? Ryan asked. To the lake? Yeah. We had to share that tiny room with one bed. I smiled. I remember pretending I snored, just so you'd stop talking about how creepy the old caretaker was. He was creepy. He kept offering me cough drops and staring at my feet. You have weirdly nice feet, I said before I could stop myself. He laughed. You have been looking. I stared up at the sky. Shut up. But my ears were warm, and I knew he noticed. Ryan turned onto his side, facing me now. His voice dropped slightly. Can I ask you something? Sure. Do you ever think about how things would be different if we'd met somewhere else? I turned my head to look at him. What do you mean? Like, if we weren't neighbors? If we didn't have this thing that keeps us in orbit, but never close enough to say what we really feel? My throat dried up. I couldn't move, couldn't even blink. What would you say if we weren't just neighbors? My heart was pounding so loud, I was sure he could hear it. I wanted to answer. I wanted to tell him everything, but the fear hit me like a wave. What if I ruined it? What if he didn't mean what I thought he meant? My voice cracked. Before I could say anything else, a gust of wind rustled the trees, sudden and sharp. Ryan shivered, pulling his hoodie tighter around him. Without thinking, I reached over and touched his arm. Here, He looked down at my hand on his. Then he slowly turned his palm over and laced his fingers with mine. I swear I stopped breathing. He didn't say anything, just held my hand, like it was the most natural thing in the world, and I let him. A silence fell over us. Not awkward, not heavy, just ... full. Then Ryan broke it, his voice low. I used to think I knew myself, what I wanted, who I was. I turned toward him, and now, he looked at me, really looked. Now I'm not so sure, but I know I don't want to lose what we have. His fingers tightened slightly around mine. I swallowed hard. You wouldn't. He gave a faint smile. Unless I said the wrong thing, I could feel it. The moment pressing in between us, teetering on the edge of something that might change everything. I shifted closer, our arms brushing fully now. Maybe saying the right thing is scarier. He tilted his head, then say something scary. I stared at his mouth, his eyes, everything I'd been avoiding, and I whispered, I think I've been falling for you since that stupid root beer. He blinked. Then he laughed softly, breathlessly. Thank God, he said, and then he leaned in. He didn't kiss me, not yet, but his forehead rested against mine. His breath touched my lips. His hand was still in mine, holding tight, and for the first time, I didn't feel like I had to hide. I didn't sleep much. Ryan did, or at least he pretended to. His head was still tucked into the crook of my arm, his breath steady against my chest, his hand now resting fully over mine. I didn't dare move. Not because I didn't want to, but because the moment felt too fragile, like exhaling might shatter it. The forest was quiet. Just the occasional rustle, a distant owl. But in my chest, it was chaos. What if this was just comfort for him? What if he held people this way without thinking twice? I had seen him flirt with girls' soft teases, easy smiles, casual touches, and I couldn't bear the idea that I was just another shoulder for him to lean on, that this didn't mean anything. But the way he held me now, it felt deliberate, unspoken, but deliberate. My phone screen lit up with the time. 2:14 a.m., no signal. Still, I finally whispered, You awake? He didn't move. A minute passed. Then 2, I sighed, slowly starting to shift my arm. But just as I moved, his fingers tightened around mine. I'm awake, he said softly. I froze. I've been awake, he added. He pulled back just enough to look up at me. In the dark, I could just make out the shape of his face, eyes searching mine. I didn't know if I should say anything. He continued, his voice low, almost breathless. You looked peaceful. I wasn't. He gave a tiny, sad smile. Yeah, me neither. The tension between us, already thick, suddenly cracked wide open. I sat up slowly, breaking the contact between us. I've been trying to figure out what this is. If you're just being nice, or affectionate, or if it's not just that, he interrupted, sitting up too. I mean, yeah, I'm probably too affectionate sometimes, but not like this, not with everyone. I turned to him. Then what is it, Ryan? Because you're making it really hard to breathe. He looked down at his hands, fidgeted with a string on his hoodie. I've been scared that if I said something, it'd ruin everything. I swallowed. Me too. I didn't know I could feel this way about a guy, he admitted quietly. Or maybe I did, and I just didn't let myself look at it. Not until you. The words hit like a soft blow to the chest. I wanted to reach for him. I didn't, he continued. There were these moments, like small things, when we'd watch a movie and you'd fall asleep and I'd just stay there. Or when we'd walk back from the store, and I'd feel disappointed when you got to your door too fast. I blinked, my heart climbing higher into my throat. I used to think it was just comfort, he said. But it's more than that now. It's more when I see you talking to someone else, and I feel, I don't know, protective. Or when I hear your laugh from your room and I smile without even realizing it. I was still quiet. I didn't plan any of this, he whispered. But here we are, and I think I'd hate myself if I didn't say it now. I finally turned toward him. My voice shook. So say it. He looked me straight in the eyes. I like you a lot more than I should have let myself. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was electric. I felt dizzy with relief, with emotion, with everything I'd been holding in for too long. I like you too, I said, barely above a whisper. I've liked you since before you knew how to fix your own Wi-Fi. That made him laugh, quiet, breathy, nervous. Wow, that long. Yeah, you were wearing a terrible hoodie, by the way. He nudged me with his elbow. It was vintage. It was ugly. We both laughed, awkward, soft, disbelieving. Like we'd just opened a door we didn't know we were allowed to walk through. Then, a pause. Ryan turned his body toward mine, knees brushing. His hand reached up, hovering near my cheek before he pulled back. I don't want to mess this up, he said. You won't. He searched my face. Promise. I nodded. If you don't run, I won't either. His breath caught in his throat. Can I? I answered him by leaning forward, and for the first time, our lips met. It wasn't perfect, not movie perfect, not choreographed or smooth. It was uncertain, a little clumsy, hesitant, but it was real. And when I felt his hand rest gently against the side of my neck, when his lips parted just slightly against mine, when we both exhaled at the same time like we'd been holding that breath forever, I knew. He pulled back just an inch, resting, his forehead against mine. I didn't expect this, he whispered. Me neither. We stayed there, in that quiet shelter, in the woods, with the whole night around us, and our hearts bare between us. I kept thinking, he said after a while, if I ever told you, you'd pull away, or worse, you'd pity me. Why would I ever pity you? Because I was late to the truth. Because maybe you had to wait too long. I shook my head, brushing my thumb over the back of his hand. I'd wait again, for this. We didn't sleep after that, not because we couldn't, but because we didn't want to miss a single second of this new reality. We talked about everything. The first time he wondered if he was feeling more. The nights I nearly confessed, the way neither of us had ever kissed someone with quite that much fear and joy, all wrapped together, as the early blue light of morning began to spill over the tops of the trees. Ryan curled up beside me, head tucked beneath my chin, fingers laced with mine. You know what I'm afraid of now, he said. What? That when we leave here, everything will go back to normal. And I don't want normal anymore. I kissed the top of his head. Then let's make a new normal. He smiled against my chest, and I knew we'd never go back. By the time the sun broke through the trees, golden and low and gentle, we were still wrapped up in each other like the night hadn't ended. I'd always wondered what it would feel like the quiet, after a confession, the stillness, after a kiss. I thought maybe it would feel overwhelming, complicated. But it didn't. It felt like breathing for the first time without a weight on my chest. Ryan shifted beside me, blinking against the early light. His hair was messy, sticking up in the back, and his hoodie had twisted around his shoulders during the night. He looked over at me with the softest smiles, sleepy, unguarded. Something entirely new. Morning, he said, voice husky from sleep. Hey, I whispered back, smiling without meaning to. He scooted a little closer on the bench and rested, his chin briefly on my shoulder. Still real. Feels real. I was worried I dreamt that whole thing. I chuckled. You snore in your dreams too. He nudged me, playful but affectionate. Rude. You kissed a guy who snores. I did more than kiss him, I said under my breath, the words slipping out before I could filter them. Ryan looked at me, amused. Okay, now I'm worried about what else I did in my sleep. I shrugged, teasing. You said you loved me, but I'll assume that was just the sleep talking. His smile faltered just slightly. Not in a bad way, more like a shift in energy. He leaned back a little to see my face better. Would it be too soon if I did? I swallowed, heartbeat picking up again. No, because I don't know what it is yet, he said quietly. But whatever this is between us, it's the only thing in my life that's ever felt right, even when I didn't understand it. I reached over and took his hand. That's more than enough. We sat in silence for a while, our fingers tangled, our backs sore from sleeping in such an awkward position, but neither of us cared. The forest felt different now, less mysterious, more like a place where something had begun. Eventually, we packed up our things, took one last look around the clearing, and started the walk back to the trailhead. The bike, battered and bent, was too far gone, so Ryan pushed it beside him, like a wounded animal. We didn't talk much during the walk. It wasn't awkward. It was quiet, in the way you are when you no longer need to fill the silence. At one point, I looked over and found Ryan watching me, a lazy smile tugging at his lips. What? I asked. He shook his head. You just look happy. I am. Me too, he said, then added, also, I'm gonna need you to teach me how to actually ride a bike that doesn't try to kill me. I grinned. You're saying you want a round too? He lifted his brows. I'm saying I want more mornings like this, minus the sore back and broken spokes. I nudged him with my shoulder. Deal, but you're buying the next bike. As we neared the edge of the forest, the cell signal returned. Messages came in. Missed calls. Reality creeping back in. Ryan glanced at his screen, then at me. What happens now? It was the question we'd both been avoiding. Not out of fear, more out of awe that now was even possible. I looked at him. I don't know. We go back. We figure it out. And what if people don't get it? Then they don't get to have us. His eyes softened. You're braver than I thought. I'm just tired of pretending I don't feel something every time you smile at me. We stopped walking. Ryan turned toward me, face serious. I don't want this to be something we only talk about out here, in the woods, like it was temporary. It's not, I said, without hesitation. We've been building this for a long time, even if we didn't have the words for it. His hand found mine again. Okay. So we go back. We don't rush, but we don't hide. I nodded, and maybe we try another ride next weekend. You know, one that doesn't end with a broken chain and a love confession in the wilderness. He smirked. Or maybe that's just our thing now. Fall off a bike, fall in love. I laughed, and for a moment I couldn't believe how easy this all felt, how a single night could rewrite everything I thought I knew. As we reached the edge of the woods, the trees parted and sunlight poured over us like a quiet promise. We stood there for a moment, looking at the town ahead, the same town, but everything felt different now, because he wasn't just my neighbor anymore, he was mine. We got back just as the sun was rising over the rooftops of our quiet street, spilling soft gold over the sidewalks and porches, like a fresh coat of something hopeful. Ryan dropped a broken bike in the driveway and let out a groan. I'm never trusting you with a bike route again. Hey, I said, tossing him a bottle of water from my backpack. You asked for scenic. You didn't say safe. He snorted. Scenic almost broke my ribs. But it did something else, too, I said, quieter now. He looked at me, and the humor faded gently into something warmer. Yeah, it really did. For a moment, we just stood there in the middle of the driveway, sun washing over our faces. The neighborhood still asleep around us. It felt surreal, like the rest of the world hadn't caught up to what happened between us, like it was still just ours. Ryan stretched, wincing slightly as he twisted his back. Okay, but seriously, next weekend. You're riding the broken one. I'm getting a real one with shock absorbers. I chuckled, leaning against the fence post. Next weekend, huh? He turned to me with that familiar smirk, the one that used to feel casual, but now held so much more. Yeah, Unless this was a one-time wilderness romance deal, and you planned to ghost me after breakfast. I rolled my eyes, but I smiled. You wish. He came closer, lowering his voice. Good. Because I don't think I could go back to pretending I'm just your neighbor. You haven't been just my neighbor for a long time, Ryan. He nodded, and then without hesitation this time, he took my hand. Not secretly, not shyly, just, simply. His fingers laced with mine like they'd always belonged there. Do you think we'll be okay? He asked, not quite looking at me. I squeezed his hand. We already are. And I meant it. It wasn't about labels or declarations. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about the way his hand found mine in the morning light. The way we both felt lighter even after a sleepless night. And the way neither of us had run from the truth when it finally surfaced. We walked toward our houses like that, still tangled, shoulders brushing now and then. At his front steps, Ryan paused and turned to me. You want to come in? I hesitated. Not because I didn't want to, but because I knew this part. This first day back in the real world would set the tone for whatever came next. Actually, I said, grinning, come over to mine. I make better pancakes. He raised an eyebrow. Is that code for something? Unfortunately, no. I'm just really good at breakfast food. He laughed and followed me without another word. Inside my house, everything looked the same, but everything felt different. He kicked off his shoes and wandered into the kitchen like he always did. But now he paused at the counter, watching me, as I pulled out ingredients. You're really not freaking out? He asked. I looked up. Should I be? He shrugged, leaning against the fridge. I don't know. Most people would be. I think I've been waiting so long to feel this. Calm with someone, I said, cracking an egg into the bowl. That now I don't want to waste a second not being honest about it. He walked over, gently took the whisk from my hand, and rested it on the counter. Okay then, he said, voice soft. I'll go first. Before I could ask what he meant, he leaned in and kissed me slowly this time. No hesitation, just a quiet affirmation that the night in the forest hadn't been some strange dream. When he pulled back, he smiled and said, Your turn. I kissed him back, my fingers curling into the fabric of his shirt, like I was anchoring myself there. It wasn't the kind of kiss that needed fireworks. It was the kind that said, This is real. I'm here, and I want more. Later, after pancakes and some light teasing about how badly he flipped his pet, we lay on the couch, our legs tangled like wires, TV playing low in the background, but neither of us really watching. Ryan rested his head on my chest and said, You know what I realized out there? What? That loving someone doesn't mean you stop being scared. It just means you're willing to face it with them. I wrapped my arm around him. Then yeah, I'm scared, but I'm also ready. He looked up at me. So next weekend? I nodded. Next weekend? He smiled. And the one after that. I kissed his forehead. Every weekend. And with that, we drifted into something quiet, something simple. Not an ending, just the beginning.